What is up? Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Matt Forte. We are here live at the Build Studio in New York City. Our next guest, man, he's a businessman, investor, an author, a motivational speaker, the founder, president, and CEO of FUBU, and appears on the hit ABC series Shark Tank. That's right, the show that taught us all that with a little hard work, determination, and a licensing deal from Mr. Wonderful, the American dream really is possible. It's celebrating its 10th season, and joining me here right now is one of the original sharks himself. Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise. The great Daymond John is in the building. How about that?
Thank you so much.
Here he is.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, man. It's so awesome to have you back on the show. Congratulations. 10 seasons.
10 years, a decade of dreams, right?
Yeah. Audible gasps and wows in the audience. It's unbelievable. I'm excited to talk to you all about it. First and foremost, just how are you, man? How's life? How's Daymond doing?
Life is good. Life is good. I'm about to turn 50 years old.
Oh, wait, really?
Yeah, I'm about to turn a big 50. Have a 2-year-old baby girl, 10 years on Shark Tank. I beat cancer 2 years ago. I live in the greatest city of all, and the greatest country of all. So life is good, man.
We're gonna hold for the applause right there, man.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's hard to argue with. Life is pretty good. That sounds wonderful.
Life is really great.
Congrats on all of that, man. All right. Well, hey, since things are so great, let's talk about this great show. Let's jump right into it, man. 10 seasons, 10 years.
10 years.
So, do you keep a mental tally? How have you forgotten some of the things you've invested in at this point?
I have forgotten many of the pitches or many of the things I've invested in, of course, because those ones that you try to forget are the ones that probably aren't doing that well. Yeah. I've been sitting next to Mr. Wonderful for 10 years. 10 years. 10 years of hearing him say people are dead to him, take you behind the barn and shoot you. You know, that business howls at the moon. Oh! Yeah.
All the hits.
It's fantastic.
Have you ever, at this point, it's funny that you say you forget some of them. Have you ever heard an idea, thought it was great, went to invest, only to realize it was already something that you had under your belt? It was already a company that you had invested in?
It's never I had something under my belt, but what happens is, you get so excited, you caught up in the moment. You have Cuban and Barbara negotiating over it. The entrepreneur is really great. You're really into it. You go and you buy the company or you invest in the company. You take it to some of your friends in the industry, and they go, I got $10 million worth of that crap in a warehouse. What the hell's wrong with you, idiot? And then you realize that maybe you've not done the right deal. But that happens sometimes, of course.
That's wild. So that's happened a couple of times. You've made the deal, and then now what do we do? So
now what do we do? Exactly.
Yeah. What do you do?
Well, you know what? I think there's something we can learn from that because it always comes down to the entrepreneur because a lot of those things, nothing happens. Yeah. But there's one or two or a couple of those things that it's the entrepreneur that said, I just made small adjustments to it. I found a new audience. And you know what? I'm going to prove you wrong. And they do. People like Bombas socks. I've been selling socks for years with FUBU socks, right? And it was never a big business of mine because I can't tell the socks you're wearing on your feet. There's no logo on them. I can't see what's going on. They're in a bucket for $5 for a pair everywhere, right? But yet, Bombas socks will go out, and they started off doing $800,000. They said, you know what, I'll do the deal just kind of like you guys. And because you're giving a pair away to the homeless, every pair you sell, I like the cause. They're going to do $60 million this year. $60 million because they just made small adjustments. They sold it directly to the customer. They gave it at the same time as selling, so people got behind the movement. They took out the seams and the toes, so you don't get that line underneath the toe. That small adjustment, turn it into an $80 million company, $60 million company.
That's pretty, and that all started because you kind of like the guys. You kind of like the people behind it. How often do you see that correlation where you take a risk just because I really like the person who's up here talking to me right now?
All the time that I have been successful with any company I've invested in or any employee is because I like them and they like me. All the time. It has never failed. So I don't care who's watching now. You have the best idea, or you know what? You have your fancy degree, and you're going to go work at a company, keep your headphones all day because your degree is why you're there. You're going to get fired, right? Sooner or later. You're going to lose the investment. The investments that I had that I didn't like the people, when there was a problem, I didn't want to call them and get on the phone with them. They didn't want to call me. Right. They talked to their lawyers. I talked to my lawyer. Before you know it, it's dead.
Did you go in knowing you didn't like that person, or did it happen over time?
No, I found out they were assholes later, or they found out I was an asshole later. Either way, something didn't work out. All right, so I think that's what, the more that technology gets in between us all with the fact that, we don't really talk to people, this and that, the more that human interaction becomes more valuable, and those out there who are looking for a job or position and or an investment. Interaction becomes the most powerful thing within a company. We'll figure all that other stuff out.
And it's also it's the core of the show is watching the interaction between you guys and the entrepreneurs that come in, which I think kind of speaks to, like you talked about how you've been sitting next to Kevin, has all the same expressions for 10 years and all this stuff.
Right.
You know, what has changed from day one? Here we are a decade later. Has anything changed? Because the rudimentaries, and this is not meant in a negative way whatsoever, as someone who's watched it, not a lot has, and it's still great. I'm still watching. Has something changed that I haven't
So many things have changed. So the sharks are learning at the same time. We're learning what works for us, what doesn't work for us. You know, year one, I think I lost $700,000. The year two, I lost $300,000. Year three, I gained it all back within one deal, right? Year one, I would close 30% of the deals, and year 240, now I'm closing 80% of the deals because both people are getting smarter, right? Both the entrepreneurs saying, here's the shark I want. The sharks are starting to say, here's what works for me. You know what? I learned that I don't want any more clothing brands. I'm too jaded. Yeah. But I have a fresh pair of eyes for perishables and or this and that. So we get smarter, right, as we go along. The casting directors get smarter. You know, year one and two, a casting director is a casting director. They're a great producer, casting director. So you go on and you say, hey, I want to go on the show and I'm doing $30 million of business and I have one employee. Yeah. You know, year one, they didn't say, so you're selling crack, right? they didn't know how to say that. Yeah. But after sitting and watching hundreds of pitches, now they realize, how will you have one employee, you're doing $30 million? So everybody gets smarter. And listen, year one, well, I don't even know if there was Instagram out. When was Instagram created? Or a lot of these social sites, you couldn't convert sales, right? We were out in 2008, right? Yeah. So now, you know that hopefully we'll get all our money back in the first month because of all the conversions from online. You weren't selling goods like that earlier. So we're all learning at the same exact time on how to do business.
With so many things that you couldn't predict, like you said with Instagram now and the way everyone was going to learn and everything you'd get over the years, going in, were you at all, you know, a successful businessman, here you are, founder of FUBU, CEO, were you at all hesitant to jump on the show and do this at all?
I was hesitant to jump on the show because at that time when they called me for the show, I was doing product placement and I was doing some form of management of the Kardashian girls before, you know, and getting their brand right. And they said I couldn't do any of the show but Shark Tank if I would do their show. And I had already promised Chloe that I was going to be on a couple of episodes, a couple of minutes apiece. So I had to turn down the show. Chloe would later on have her producers fire me because she didn't want to get in my way. She found out that she was going to get in my way because I was you know, really dedicated to Chris and the family and what we were doing. So at first I didn't want to go. I couldn't go on the show because of that. Then I found out I had to actually invest my own money. I was like, what are you talking about? You Hollywood people are pimps. Are you kidding me? I'm going on the show. I'm supposed to get paid. You want me to invest my own money? But that time, you know, in the clothing industry, we feel the crunch before anybody does when, you know, the market pulls back because people just wear their jeans 100 more times instead of buying a new pair. I had 10 clothing brands at the time, and 8 of them were dead. So I said to myself, I need to go on this show because I'm only getting pitched clothing lines at this time. I want to get pitched electronics and lotions and other things. So when I go into Macy's, I can take up aisle 7 and aisle 8 and, you know, the third floor. So I want to diversify my portfolio. That's why I went on the show initially.
Do you regret that now as people come up to you 1 trillion times a day and go, Daymond, I have an idea for you, sir?
No, you know what? Absolutely, actually, I don't. You know, listen, I'm an idiot. If I didn't see the 21 cameras shooting me, I know what I signed up for, and I'm not like a music artist. I feel bad for music artists because people, when they come up to me, all they want to do is find a way to become successful, to make sure their family have the right things in life. So it's not bad when somebody comes up to me. They're not coming up to me singing like, yeah. 15 minutes ago, I was doing another show. I was doing Rachel Ray, and Ben Stiller walked in. Now, I'm not, you know, I don't get crazy over certain people, but certain people I go, and you don't realize you're going to see them, you go, Ben, Tropic Thunder, Ben. And you're like, you know, I got like a fan over him, and I said to him, I said, you know what? I know people walk up to me and say, yo, man, you inspire me, but how must it feel to be Ben when people are like, make me laugh right now? And you could be going through the worst thing in your life. So I don't feel bad when people walk up to me. I actually love it.
That's pretty good to hear. What I'm curious, man, because you post a lot of very inspirational stuff on social. You go around as professionally speaking. Even right now, I'm pretty inspired just listening to you.
Thank you.
But what have you learned? What have you gained from working on this show that you've taken and sort of applied off camera? Something you've picked up from doing the tank that now has impacted you outside?
Anything you want to do in life can be done, because I've seen now, we're going on. We've seen over 200 pitches that have aired. We've seen for us to air 200 pitches, that means we've seen 600 pitches, and I've just learned that you have to create a community. No matter what product you have, it is not about the product. The product is king at the end of the day. But if you don't create a community, that's the most important part. It's not about money. It is really about creating communities. And anybody watching today or in this audience can do anything they want. When I was a kid and I was riding down the block, I said, who the hell owns all these buildings, these cars? Who created all this stuff? It started off with one person with an idea. No matter how small that person was, what that idea was small, it eventually became this. And if you can create a community, we see, look at my friends, the Kardashians, how big they are and how influential they are right now. They create a community. And if you know your community and you follow them back, you really have ambassadors that will buy and or sell and preach for whatever you want to do. And I'm watching now millionaires become, so many kids becoming millionaires off their couch with an iPhone. Anybody can do it.
Have any of your friends over in the Kardashians, they call you up? Go, Daymond, I don't know what to do with this. What do you think?
No, they're pretty much on their own. They're doing really, really well. We speak once in a blue moon, but they are doing really well. I'm so proud of them.
What do you guys talk about once in a blue moon? Just catching up, friends.
Just catching up. How's my wife? How they doing? Things like that. Yeah.
Pretty cool. There's one of the things we got is, again, 10 seasons. You got to go through all these. You got to hit the different marks here. Has there ever been a product? Now, I know you've gone on record, you say no regrets. You have no regrets in regards to what you have. But surely, in the hundreds and hundreds you've seen, there has to at least be one where you thought, man, I should have got a piece of that. There hasn't been one.
No.
Not a single one.
Here's the reason why. Because it doesn't mean that it would have been what it is when I had it. Did I have the vision? All right, I had something called FUBU Records earlier on in the day. Now, let me tell you the artists that came to get signed to FUBU Records we didn't sign. Eminem, Ashanti, and I think 50. But I didn't have Dr. Dre to be the producer. Eminem would have never got out of the hood if he would have signed to FUBU Records. FUBU Records would close a year after because we didn't have the right management. The same as going on to the show, if you have a product and if I don't get it, I'm not going to be a great partner. Actually, I'm taking up time and space and energy of a potential other great partner. Lori, I've said this before. Lori, there was somebody who came on the show and they had a little clip that you put on the edge of your shirt so you can hang your glasses in. And in my industry, Tommy Bahama, myself, we've all made the Hawaiian shirts with the hole where you can put your glasses in. So I said, I've been doing it for years. Why the hell would I need this? Lori goes out and sells $8 million worth of that little clip because she's had people who watch her on QVC for 15 years and she's been selling reading glasses on QVC. It wouldn't have done the same with me. So you can't, it's almost like, being married to somebody and looking at why did I let that one get away? You got to work on this right here at the moment.
Everything happens for a reason.
Everything happens for a reason.
That's pretty amazing. Have you ever... Well, that's pretty incredible. So you've never had any regrets. You've talked about what you've learned.
And how much of those regrets going to help me?
Well, that's just it. You learn from. That's the thing I'm looking for. Is even the ones that you miss, you learn something from it, right? Even the shots you didn't take, you had to learn something from not taking that shot.
Well, of course you try to, but you can't start to justify why you made a mistake. You just have to just move forward. But I don't think it's a mistake. Again, it wouldn't have been the same investment with me. It really wouldn't have been.
It's pretty amazing. One of that you mentioned very at the top of the show, talking about all the wonderful things you got going on. 2-year-old daughter, you said, right?
Yeah.
And I'm curious if having a child in your life, having your own child, has colored at all how you interact with children on the show. Because there was something I was watching very recently this season. I think it was the kid that had the the building block glue that he had there.
Yeah.
And the kid came back and he countered. It was like 5% difference. Yeah. But you held strong, man. You're like, no, I said what I wanted. I want 20. The kid's like 11 years old, and you gave it to him straight.
He was a vicious negotiator.
He was vicious. But I was like, man, this dude holds his ground. Like, and I've seen it happen over the years. Kids come in, and you guys, you talk to them like adults because they've come in there acting like adults. They are adults in their hearts. But is it hard for you under that side, like when you're talking to a kid at all?
Of course, it's very, very hard. You know, well, I have a 2-year-old, but I have a 25 and a 20-year-old, right? So I'm very compassionate for kids. Of course I am. But at the end of the day, the deal has to be right because a lot of times we can't say, you know, listen, you're seeing 8 minutes of an hour-and-a-half pitch, and they're putting it all down. As you know, the editing world, it's an hour and a half we've been speaking. Yeah. I don't know. I may have counted already for the kid, but you didn't get to see that, right? And I know that. Let's say if I won 20%, and I remember that kid with the building block glue, and it was a good glue. Yeah, it's good. I may have had to give commissions of another 5% or 10% of my side to the sales guy I know to go to 3M. I don't have time to say all that on the show, right? So, in a lot of times, you know what else happens to me? A lot of people stop me and say, hey, man, why are you so mean? You know, people over there, they're saying, you know, they're making a life decision. You're like, I'll give you 10 seconds before you make the decision and I'm out. I had already said to them for the first 30 minutes, here's $200,000. Hey, I'm sitting over here. You waiting? Hey, what's going on? Here's $200,000. And then finally I go, hey, man, 10 seconds. So that's what really happens. You know what I mean?
That's the thing is people don't realize that, and we've heard that before, where you sit there and the pitches, I've heard that. What's the longest pitch you guys ever sat there?
2.5 hours.
Oh, my God.
A guy named Plate Topper. I actually get up, and I'm so frustrated, and I leave, and I get something to eat. I come back. So if you look at the end of that pitch, there's a chewed-up apple at the end of my desk. I'm so disgusted with him.
What'd they cut it down to? 10 minutes? 15? Did he even make
8
the
minutes.
air?
8 minutes.
8 minutes.
8 minutes.
As hard as that was for you, can you imagine the editor?
I will never get that time back in my life. That editor, there's 21 cameras, so there's 42 hours of that pitch for them to go through, but they're timing it, you know?
This is why we're live. Yeah. That's why we're doing it now. This is it.
Please, thank you.
I'm getting this signal repeatedly. We got a bunch of questions in the room. I don't want to run out of time. Let's go to those. I'll jump into some other stuff in between. So first one's right here on the couch. Let's go for it.
Hi. Thank you so much for setting the pace, especially for entrepreneurs and minorities.
My pleasure. Thank you.
As an entrepreneur, I guess, what is the one thing you recommend or the one investment you recommend for people maybe with no capital or low capital and they're just trying to do something on the side to try to develop some wealth?
Well, I mean, the first investment, I know all these sound like these great phrases, but it has to be investing in yourself on what exactly you're trying to do. Where is that area? Like, I had to learn to sew myself so I didn't get robbed by the seamstresses or the people, the factories, or I knew who was doing something well. So whether it's social media conversion, whether it's anything, and the most important thing you can do as an entrepreneur is understand financial intelligence. It's really important to understand financial intelligence because you can take $100 or $200, $300 right now, go open a TD Ameritrade account, and you know if you really understand what you're doing right there, you can probably make more than you're making if you're making $40,000 a year if you can start really, you know, working these things. So it's really financial intelligence. I'm sorry to give you such a general answer, but that's the most important thing to do: financial intelligence. All right.
Thank you for that. I have a follow-up to that. Talking about the significance of financial intelligence. This may be too big of a thing to tackle in the time we have here, but you've talked a lot about artificial intelligence and how that's coming up, and how that's going to change the workforce and impact like the number one jobs and all these different things. Okay. Do you see artificial intelligence being leveraged in such a way that it sort of democratizes financial intelligence? Now anyone can get this app, and this app, if you just give this app $10 a month out of your paycheck, this app will automatically invest in blah, blah, blah. Has that happened yet? Do you see that happening?
Yes, I mean, that is happening, but however, the biggest gains to have in the market are right now if you just have common sense, right? Let's look at the stock market. I'm not a big stock market guy, meaning I don't look at all these charts. I just use my gut about these things. If you're going into the stock market, don't invest in anything that if it goes away, it'll disrupt your life, right? Instagram, if it goes away, will disrupt your life. If Uber goes away, it will disrupt your life. Right. But if Sears goes away or JCPenney's goes away, will it disrupt your life? And you can look at all your friends right now and look at what's in your closet for the last 3 years and realize this one thing: nobody's buying this anymore, especially if it's in the middle tier of the market. How many people right now are buying GoPros? You bet against it. Right, so you know, nothing against GoPros, but nobody wants to carry 2 cameras if your phone is a camera all of a sudden, right?
Or flip cameras.
Yeah, exactly.
One person. Right. That's exactly.
How many people are going to leave here and go to JCPenney's? Right, so if the middle is compression, because you can buy anything at low cost, meaning Burlington and TJ Maxx and things like that, and you always seek luxury goods such as Louis Vuitton and everything else, the middle gets compressed, especially if it can get delivered to your home. You go in the market, you bet against it. You bet against BlackBerry, you bet against Blockbuster, you bet against Kodak, you bet against these things. Or you bet up on some things when you know your little sister and little brother are all asking for it for Christmas. Okay, who's the company that makes it? So you can have artificial intelligence. They'll bet on blue chip stocks and things of that nature, but common sense still beats it all.
What do you invest in if your gut is an idiot? Because I feel like my gut doesn't always... I'll be like, that's not the way to go. Like you'll try to follow intuition and you're wrong. What do you do then?
You do in the market, I would say get the softwares. The softwares where you play and it's monopoly money, argument's sake, and then you learn. You keep learning. You learn to walk the same way, didn't you? Right? I mean, you just got to learn it and don't think anybody else is smarter than you, because nobody else is smarter than you, especially if you have a passion and you're really driven. Every single person in this room has a very strong passion about something that nobody can beat them at. Now, just have they been able to monetize it? My passion was hip-hop and clothes. I put it together. It's called FUBU.
Amazing. We got a few more. Next one's going to be right over here on the mark. Come on down.
Hey, Daymond John, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good, nice to see you. You're one of my biggest inspirations, and I read your book, The Power of Broke, and you said to use OPM, other people's money. How would you go about you doing that? Would you recommend using an incubator accelerator program, or
remember when I said OPM, I said everybody thinks that it's just other people's money. But as I said, if you create a following, OPM can be other people's manufacturing, mind power, marketing, manpower, mentors, and make money off other people's mistakes. Don't always think of OPM as just other people's money. Right, so that was my thing. You have to create a following and a drive, and then you'll bring that into people. Like, where would you add value to somebody else? Is your question. You see what I'm saying? So you can only answer that. When I first got a $50,000 order of clothing, I didn't have the money. So my screen printer charged me $6 a shirt. I said, just charge me $8 a shirt and send the clothes directly to the store. The store loved that because they knew if they gave me $50,000, I was buying a brand new Hyundai with rims, right? And the screen printer loved it because he knew he was getting money directly from the store. He made $2 more on his product. The store got the goods. I kept 100% of my company. It's leveraging in those senses what I was doing. I was using other people's manufacturing. You understand?
Wow, that sounds great.
You got it.
You know, as someone who has become this figure of inspiration for many, and you post all these wonderful quotes and stuff, who do you look to? Where do you look up? Someone who's climbed to the top, as a lot of us perceive as someone who's climbed to the top. How do you look up? Who do you look to?
The recent mentor that I reached out to was a guy named Jay Abraham, but I look up to many of the ones that we all know. I love Tim Ferriss. I love Lewis Howe. I love Gary Vee, Grant Cardone. My mother's still my greatest mentor. But for those who don't have those individuals, one of my first mentors was a man who owned a little corner store in my neighborhood named Tim. And I used to go there, and at that time it wasn't called interning. It was called sweeping up the shop for free. And I learned the fundamentals of business from Tim as well. Tim taught me about, if somebody's around for 20 years in a local business and they've survived taxes and increase in inflation and all this stuff, they know the fundamentals of business just like everybody else. So I'm often looking for inspiration, and I look towards, well, not the other sharks, they're idiots, but I look towards the entrepreneurs that come on there. These young kids are coming on there, and these people in this audience are watching. They're doing business a whole new way that I didn't do 20 years ago, and I'm learning from them. A mentor can be 16 years old who just understands how to communicate really fast on social media and shows you all the new things going on.
And you're never intimidated by the new stuff. You're always excited.
No, I jump right in. I learn it. I love it. I'm personally the one operating my social media. Do I have a small team? Absolutely, but mainly I'm out there. When you came in, I was putting a post up. Yeah.
You're doing it. What was it about? One more. We're gonna do one more question for you, and it's right over here.
It's great to hear you in person. Love watching Shark Tank, and it's really inspired me, like the past 5 years, to start my own company and learn and grow and build. And recently, actually yesterday, I was let go from my job. And I was let go from my job. So now I'm in a position where I've been starting companies. I feel comfortable about doing that, but do I go try to find another job and do something on the side, or do I just go all in on startups and then seeing what happens, because I'm young, ready to fail? But I'm just trying to get your idea on what kind of climate we're in, and do you think this is the time to go all in on startups or try to hedge your risk a little bit?
How old are you?
23.
23. You got kids?
No.
You married?
No.
Go all in on two. Go all in on working at a place, and go all in on the other side of starting new businesses. Do that. Remember, I always try to tell people, even when I tell my daughters, for the first 20 years, you were somebody's son or somebody's daughter. Probably by the time you're 30, you're going to be somebody's husband, wife, or father, or mother. Be yourself for the next 10 years that you can. Travel the world. Work as many hours as you can here in the daytime, because the day job will pay the bills, but your homework will make you rich. And do everything else you can. I slept 3 hours a day from the age of 20 to 30 because I worked at Red Lobster during the day, and then I did FUBU at night. But if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have been able to create FUBU, because at Red Lobster, even though I made $30,000 a year, after 5 years, I had $150,000. I had medical, I had insurance. The other waiters would help me sell the product, right? And I would have had to do $2 million in FUBU to come up with that same $150,000. And the only reason that FUBU ever worked is because I just did not sleep. Mark Cuban has an old saying, you know, his girlfriend in college said, "It's me or the business." And he said, "What the hell is your name again?" And that was it, you know? So go hard, baby, go hard. And get training someplace else. Because you know what, if you're so great, when you're working in a company, they may say, "Hey, what can we do together? You want to open up a new division? Maybe I'll invest in something you're doing." So do both of them.
Thank you.
Great question. Thank you for that. And you guys are an amazing audience. We're gonna wrap it up in just a second. One last thing. What is the most recent pitch that you've seen that you've gotten the most excited about?
The most recent one was three young kids that came on the show, and they had just a heart-wrenching story where it was their mother had passed away, and then their father passed away right after that from 9/11. He had passed away right before going on to the show. We had seen his tape. Being somebody that lives in New York City who has lost so many people from 9/11, somebody that lived one town over for them when I lived in Massapequa, and to see three young kids take on their father and their parents' dream was the most exciting thing in regards to the fact that we all came together as the Sharks, one family, to help bring them out. It was called Cutboard Pro, and just see that, you know, it's just an amazing time to see that pitch in person. I promised I would never cry on live television, but that went out the window. I was blubbering like a baby, and it was really amazing to see the fortitude that these beautiful kids had to take their father's dream and go further, and for us to just be part of their ride. You know, when we're on the show, we're not looking to exploit anybody, because who wants to get in business with in a bad deal? But we're fortunate enough that somebody's like, "I'm allow you to be part of my dream," and we get to learn from them, and we get to travel with them on that dream, and hopefully we'll make a couple of dollars. If we don't, we learned a lot. We had fun, and we're part of this new family. So it is really the most amazing pitch I've ever seen.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and you guys, if you haven't seen it, you should look up the clip. I think it was episode 3 of this season, and it was, oh man, it was something else. Not a dry in the house, and it's a great product too, honestly.
It's a great product, absolutely.
Everything kind of aligned. It's an incredible story, a incredible moment of television, and a great product. It's just a win all around for everybody. I want to thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us again.
And I want to make sure everybody is able, because I know that I'm going to give away free samples of my Daymond on Demand.
Where
right?
can we get the free sample?
Go to, what is it, Learn at? Okay, we'll post it. I think it's Learn at Daymond on Demand, and it's gonna be a free sample. It's my 8-hour curriculum on how to remain a shark or become a shark and avoid those millions of dollars worth of mistakes that I made.
8 hour. Hang on a second. I'm looking at the clock.
Huh? Learn like a shark. You see, my friend and I were both dyslexic, so we screwed that up at first, right? Learn like a shark. I said, I'm serious. Out of the 12 sharks, even guess 8 of us are dyslexic on Shark Tank. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So learn like a shark.
8-hour curriculum, you said?
8-hour curriculum.
You're
going to get a free sample. It took me weeks to put that together, because it's everything from what's the difference between a patent or a trademark, what's more valuable, where do you go for funding, what are the 3 of... We go through every single thing, taxes, everything on what's the best way to do that. A lot of people think, a patent is valuable, but a patent could cost $80 or $20 or $100,000, and you can sometimes not defend them. Yeah. But a trademark is $2,500, and guess what? You can't put FUBU, Nike, Tommy Hilfiger, BMW on anything, because that first $2,500 for the trademark. So a lot of people go out and spend so much money not understanding business, and that's where Learn Like a Shark. You go on there and get Daymond on Demand, a free sample. so you can start to understand some of those things.
Was it hard for you to assemble the order? I'm sorry, I know I said we were wrapping up, but I'm fascinated by the 8-hour curriculum. Was it hard for you to figure out the order in which to teach everyone this lifetime of knowledge you've acquired?
It wasn't. You know why? Because for the first 10 years of making money, I still got screwed. I had some of the wrong lawyers, some of the right lawyers, some of the good accountants, some of the wrong people, and you don't until people realize you're around for a while, you don't start to see, and you know in business, you start to see the same people, the right people, and then I gathered all this list of the most commonly asked questions about business, and I said, you know what, I'm going to put the right people in place that I know to teach this to people, because there's no one place it's all together. You get a little bit on Shark Tank, you get a little bit on Gary Vee's place, you get a little bit from Kevin O'Leary on Instagram, but now I put it all together so people can learn. Yeah.
You're doing free samples.
Free samples. Learn like a shark, and it is my Daymond on demand.
You're going to have a lot of people coming in here telling them that's your fault. They learn like a shark.
That's why.
That's dream.
Listen, you can get me anywhere. You can get me on Facebook, get me on books, get me on Shark Tank, but now you can get me on Daymond on demand. So it's
Can't
great.
get away from you, Daymond.
That's right.
That's fantastic.
Gotta give them what they want.
Thank you so much again for doing this. Shark Tank is Sundays on ABC, but you already knew that, right? Everybody put your hands together. Make some noise one more time. The great Daymond John.